November 8th has come and gone, but when you thought it was safe to go back into the water, we're here to talk about council elections. With me here today is Laura Hallmark, our City Secretary. Welcome.
Thank you.
And I know we've had a very exciting election season, and of course, you're here to talk about some of the, election do's and don'ts, and I guess one of the biggest things is voter turnout.
Absolutely, and that was one of the most exciting things about the November 8th election. You know, despite your political affiliation, that was really one of the biggest things about voter turnout for Rowlett. The numbers, the number of people who turned out.
Well, I've been here over 20 years, and you look at the elections that we've had in the past, it's rather pathetic in terms of the turnout. So typically your presidential election gets more, but this year we had some significant numbers come in. Why don't you tell us about those?
Well, typically, as you mentioned, historically our voter turnout is very low. In fact, our last council election, which was in May 2014, only had a voter turnout of 1,017 voters, which represented only 2.9% of
And that's pretty pathetic,
voters.
actually, if you think about, because we have a total of over 38,000, almost 39,000 registered voters in the city of Rowlett. 39,000. And this past presidential election, of course, was really a record for us and really all over the country in terms of many cities have had like these record turnouts. I have never been in a time when we had early voting and people were in line for 2 hours. That is pretty significant. We had a total of over 25,000 people vote in this past presidential election.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, and then you take a look at the 2014 numbers and we're only at over 1,000. I don't know if it's all the television and all the hype that goes on prior to that, but the council elections, Laura, frankly, in my opinion, are the most critically important that we have because that money stays right here in our town.
Absolutely. Those are the council elections are the things that affect people on a daily basis. They're the things that affect your pocketbook on a daily basis. City council, city elections are where things happen.
Well, and that's important, and I'm glad you brought that up because at the end of the day, when we have this roughly $90 million budget, you look at things that, you know, what does that money go for? It goes to our streets, our alleys, all the infrastructure, the sewer and water, and all of those things. That's incorporated into our budget every year, and city council's voting on that budget. And people just don't get involved. You know, we have a handful of citizens. We call them the regulars. They're the ones that of course, regularly show up at the council meetings. They regularly volunteer at all the different events.
Right.
They show up at all the different events. They participate in every way that we can.
Absolutely.
But my biggest challenge, and I know this is yours, is how do you get our message out to the majority of people, to those 38,843 that voted in the presidential election and say, we need you to come and vote in our local elections because they're critically important.
Right, or the remaining 34% who didn't.
Absolutely.
And one of the ideas that people think of is, well, you know, my vote doesn't count, or, you know, why should I go bother voting?
Right.
But especially at the local level, every single vote counts. You know, at the national level, you have the Electoral College where it's along party lines, and so your one individual vote
That's
may
right.
not specifically count. But at the local level, it really does because, you know, we've seen that at the local level, we've had in recent history a council member during a runoff election. The vote was decided by one single vote.
I was actually just going to bring it up. I don't remember the year, but it was not that long ago.
No, it wasn't.
And that was when Michael Gallup was elected.
Absolutely.
He won by one vote. And everybody swears they were that vote. I wasn't going to vote, but I decided to go that day, and I was that one vote. And I heard that story over and over again.
That's
but
right.
He literally won by one vote. So your vote does count. It does
Absolutely.
make a big difference.
It
And
does.
a lot of these council elections are very close in terms of numbers. And
Sometimes
so
they are.
everybody, you know, needs to, of course, show up and vote. A couple of quick facts that we always have that we like to share. Did you know that the members of City Council set your property tax rates? Did you know that the members of City Council approve the funding for the roadways and alleys that are there? They're all part of our annual budget that's there. And finally, you know, we approve the budgeting for, of course, your sewer and water rates, as well as your police and fire services.
Okay.
But Laura, let's talk about some of the upcoming dates because I think they're critically important as part of this process. You know, of course, the election date, as you mentioned, is May 6, 2017. We've got 3 places that are open, which is Place One, Place 3, and Place 5. And you know the current council members are all, of course, eligible to and then run again. But that doesn't mean that they won't have an opponent of some sort.
Correct.
And so, but what other? So if someone's interested in running, And outside of the campaigning part, there's a process you have to follow. And the first date, of course, is the filing period that opens up.
Yes, filing period is January 18th through February 17th. Each year, the City Secretary's office publishes a candidate guide for anyone who's interested in running or becoming a candidate. And it's a good starting point. It provides a lot of information, including the necessary forms that they would need to file. It provides a calendar of important dates, target points that they need to hit during that period.
All right, now let me just stop you there, because this all sounds rather scary. So if I'm the guy that's sitting in my living room, as I just mentioned, said the best councilor mayor is still sitting in the living room, I'm hearing this and going, do I really want to get involved? And let me just say firsthand, this stuff is really easy to fill out. There's a form you fill out, you get a petition signed, you get 25 of your friends to sign it. It's very easy to have them sign that says that, and that's not would they vote for you, it's would they consider putting your name on the ballot. That's really what it commits them to do. Of course, most of those people are going to vote for you anyway if they sign it. But the filing period, again, is going to be January 18th through February 17th. And then at that point, then, you run your campaign, so to speak, and you can get some signs or posters. We've had some that have done a lot. We've had some that haven't done anything. Now, of course, once the voting period opens up, we start off with early voting.
Correct.
And that date is going to be when on that one?
April 24th through May 2nd.
Through and that's the early voting process, of course. And in some cases, they may choose to work the poll if they want to stand there and just introduce themselves to candidates that are coming in. And the last day to register to vote will be April 6th. And then, of course, so it's a pretty easy process. And then, of course, the election day is, of course, May 6th of 2017. So it's a pretty simple process as there.
And we try to facilitate the process as much as we can to make it as painless as possible.
Well, folks, we need you to get out and vote. I think that's the message today. If you're interested in running, you can see Laura or stop by her office and pick up a candidate guide. She's available for any questions that you, of course, may have. But the upcoming date for the election is May 6, 2017. In order to do that, you need to file between January 18th to February 17th. And then, of course, you know, I'm certainly here to answer any questions, or you can certainly email me, or I'll be more than happy to take your calls as well. Well, Laura, thank you so much for joining us today. We certainly appreciate that. And I think the message is get out to vote.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you.